Hi, welcome to Finding the Word. I'm Melanie Brown. Today's word is listen. And it is Thursday, so I'm going back. I'm grabbing a word that I had from before. I've been forgetting to do it, actually. There's been just words coming, so many different words throughout the day that I'm picking which one and then just kind of rolling with the words that are currently happening. And I realized that Thursday come and go and I forgot to go back and get another word. But I remember this week, and so listen is the word. Anderson at this time was 4. I guess he was probably going on 5. And the twins were just maybe freshly 2. They had an appointment and they were supposed to get their iron levels checked. They had to get their height, their weight, basic things. But Lexi had this level of stranger danger I had never witnessed. It wasn't even the whole just don't pick me up, I don't want you to come and grab me kind of a thing. It was about don't look at me. Like she had a next level on it where if you looked at her and she thought you might want to come near her, touch her, or pick her up or something, she wasn't having it. So she would grab tighter, hold on. So I knew that it was going to be a little tricky taking her in for this appointment. I had talked to Marlene. I'm like, Marlena, this was the second set of twins, so I already knew if we're going in for an appointment, I need reinforcements. You're going to need to have my back, especially with Lexi. If somebody has to go to the bathroom, you just need a backup person. So she comes along, we're going, and I was telling him in the car, I said, now, Anderson, I want you to be a good listener. I want to check your weight and stuff. I cannot remember if I specifically said they prick your finger. I think he said, am I getting a shot? And I was like, no, there's no shots. It's just, this is just going to be, okay. And so he knew if you listen, we're going to go to McDonald's for lunch. I told him, I said, if you listen well, let's go to lunch for McDonald's when we're done. So he was like, yes, I'm going to listen. All right. We get to the office and it's going along okay. Now Lexi and them are side-eyeing the lady and why is she touching him? I can see her like, why is he taking his shoes off? And don't you take my shoes off and all of that. And then comes time where she says, okay, now we're going to check your iron. It's just going to be a little finger prick. And he sees her pull this little thing out and he's holding his finger like, wait, what? And she said, it's not going to really, it's just going to be a little tiny pinch and stuff. And so you can see he's starting to get a little up, a little nervous. So she pricks his finger. He lets out like a yelp. Then she squeezes the little drop of blood. Everybody's witnessing this. Listen, mayhem broke out. So he starts trying to hold back his crying. And she's like, all right, see how fast that was? You're done. Didn't matter. Lexi's under the table. Xander's crying, trying to get out the door. He's opening the door. So Lena's trying to get under the table. I'm shutting the door and trying to hold him, pull him back. And it just turned into so we finally got up out of there. And Anderson, he wasn't sobbing, but he had been kind of crying. He was kind of, there were tears rolling. So they just were like, no, they didn't even want to get their heights checked. She's screaming and she had to estimate things and trying to work with these babies. We get in the van. I'm exhausted. And I'm looking at Lane and I was like, thank God you were here because I knew I was going to need you here, but I didn't realize it was going to be quite like this. So he said, can we go to McDonald's now? I was like, boy. I said, this didn't go that well, Anderson. I said, if everything goes good and, and he was like, you said if I listened. And so he starts crying. I can't even get McDonald's now. He begins to plead his case. He's talking about, you said I had to listen. He said, you didn't say I couldn't cry. And I thought, well, I didn't say he couldn't cry. He said, and I got shot. How am I not going to cry and I got shot? I said, okay, first of all, you did not get shot. And he was like, I did. And I was bleeding. I was like, oh my God. He's like, how am I going to get shot and don't cry? He said, I'm a little kid. Of course I'm going to cry. He said, you said I had to listen and I did. I did everything she asked me. Now I can't even get McDonald's after I got shot. Okay. I was like, this is really dramatic. But I did have to think about the fact I did not say he couldn't cry. And I did ask him to listen, and he did. So you're like, you know what? This did go crazy, but honestly, let's get McDonald's. Yay! He's like, and he starts sniffling, getting his tears wiped away and all of that. And So the word was listen there because I had to think about the fact that really all I required of him was to listen. I said, that was the main thing. I said, do as she asks you and do well. And he did. He did. I did not say he could not cry. So funny thing about the verse for listen today is it's picking right up after the word grow yesterday. And so we are still in James, and we ended in 18, where he chose to give birth to us by giving us his true word, and we out of all creation became his prized possession. And literally listen is 19, and actually all throughout the next passages. So I'm reading James 1 verses 19 through 25. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. You must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. So get rid of all the filth and evil in your lives and humbly accept the word God has planted in your hearts, for it has the power to save your souls. But don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says, otherwise you're only fooling yourselves. For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it is like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, you walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. Okay, so, and you know what we always have on cups and everywhere, like live, laugh, love. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we need to be laughing more, living, just loving. This is true, but I'm looking at this and saying we need to have on our cups, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. This would make a huge difference. And it's not the easiest thing to do. Certainly in your face consistently. It's like whether you're in management on a job, you're married, or you have children and things, you're having to, or you're depending on your profession, if you're teaching, or whatever you're doing. If you're working with people, in other words, you need to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. And we all have dealt with people who are always flying off the handle. You feel like you're on eggshells with them. You don't know what's going to be the trigger. It is terrible to be quick to get angry. So I take that one seriously. I take everything seriously, but so I'm really on this. That listening thing is really one that seems like a lifelong, like somebody's always feeling like you're not listening to me. And then you have to really assess, am I listening? Am I really listening to you? And then the fact that of obeying God's word, not just hearing the word, what's the point? There's many areas, and I feel like over the last, several months, and even really this year, it has been a continual level of understanding that you've been hearing this, you've been reading it, you've always known what this says. You aren't doing it. Not completely. Some things are even partial, but even in doing kind of partial, it's still not doing it. In these areas of obedience, the areas of listening, the areas of trust and faith or doubt, I see where definitely what the Bible is asking and requiring and what it's saying, I'm hearing it, not always completely doing it. Okay, don't forget to find the word, and I will see you tomorrow.